So despite the S&P performing well over the past couple of weeks, crypto has looked pretty flat and boring in holiday season. Bitcoin itself looking like it may well be heading for lower prices. And in this video, I'm going to get over the catalyst for a potential another leg down, and also some altcoins that are right at resistance that could well be very good shorts should that next leg down play out. So let's get into it. Starting then with the events this week. So not really too much going on up until Wednesday, when we have the minutes of last month's Fed FOMC meeting. So as some of you may or may not know, essentially what happens when these FOMC meetings take place is everyone that's part of the FOMC committee go in, have a conversation and chat about what the plan is and have a vote for whether they're going to raise, hold, pause or cut interest rates, and then obviously their strategy going forward. Then they come out, Jerome Powell comes out, gives the decision on what they're doing with interest rates, and then he makes a speech afterwards. So the minutes from that meeting is actually what is said during that meeting, but we obviously don't get that until a month later. So sometimes it's an absolute nothing burger. However, sometimes, and at the moment, it's probably a little bit more important, because we should get some clues as to whether the Fed plan to cut interest rates for the first time in a while in September. It's expected that that is going to be the case, and what people are debating is whether it's going to be a 25 basis point cut. I'm so used to saying hike, or 50 basis points. So we'll have to see what happens there. And as I say, the minutes from last month's meeting may well give us some clues as to what's going to happen. So on Wednesday, be prepared. There may be some volatility on the release of those minutes. On Thursday, we have a bit of data. We've got the initial jobless claims and then PMI. And then Friday is the big one, Federal Chair Jerome Powell's speech at Jackson Hole. So if we take a quick look at the impact that the speeches at Jackson Hole have had on the markets before. So let's take a quick look, first of all, at the S&P. So I think this was it here, August 2023. So this was on the 25th of August 2023, and you can actually see it actually signaled a short-term bottom. We had a bounce on the S&P for a few days before returning lower over the next 2 weeks. Same thing, similar happened on BTC. If we zoom in, so this was on, again, the 25th of August, bottomed out, had a little rally on the 29th and then slapped back down. So we started off around 25k, rallied to 28 and then back down to 25k again. In terms of the year before, which is 2022, a much bigger impact. If we zoom out here, you can see, so this was on the 26th of August 2022, and you can see a big sell-off on the S&P, going from 4,200 on the S&P, and it basically triggered this huge leg down all the way down to 3,490 on the S&P. Similar happened with Bitcoin, as you can imagine or probably remember. Let's zoom out and find it. So here it is, 26th of August. So we were consolidating in around 21, 22k, and that's what started the leg down all the way down to 18.5k. So as I say, could be a potential big reaction on this year's Jackson Hole, with the potential for interest rate cuts and then the decision on how big those interest rate cuts will be. If we take a look at this article here from Yahoo Finance, so this is only a couple of days old. This was from Friday. So they're talking about the probability of a rate cut, and it says here that the likelihood of a Federal Reserve interest rate cut at the September 2024 meeting is all but guaranteed, and the question is whether it will be a 25 basis point or a 50. At the moment, the probability of a 50 basis point cut is 32%, which has come down from 53, and then the probability of a 25 basis point rate cut has risen to 68% from 47%. So a lot of people moving towards the camp of just a small 25 basis point rate cut, which is probably more likely. The Fed doesn't like to spook markets, and I think a 50 basis point cut would be probably too much too soon. It's probably a lot more likely that they do a 25 point basis cut. So with that, we'll have to wait and see what happens on Friday, but as I say, some potential volatility coming in. If we take a look at what's happening with the market at the moment, if we start on the weekly time frame with BTC, so I said about looking weak and boring, and the reason why, if we take a look at this big level of resistance we've got here at 60.5k, this big weekly level, which has been a big level of support and resistance all throughout, well, since March 2021. If we take a look, we've had 2 rejections over the past couple of weeks where we've spiked up, wicked up and rejected over the past 2 weekly candles, and as well we've wicked off of this weekly moving average 21 as well. So weakness there, not showing any strength to get back above and close above those 2 important data points there. But also in terms of the weekly candle close, they've been very close together. So the weekly candle opens and closes over the past 2 weeks have been right in around that 50k area. So it's a little bit tough to pick a direction. It's a little bit of a gamble, but as I say, the only real sign we've got is that we have seen weakness every time we've tried to get above 60k. If we go down to the daily time frame, similar story. You can see that after that big rally we had back on the 8th of August, where we shot up from 55k up to 61, we rejected the daily mid-range. We also rejected the moving average 21 and the RSI 50 down here as well. So as you can see, we've been trading below the RSI 50 since then, and the moving average 21 as well. So clearly weakness in the market, and the momentum is to the downside until we can start closing back above the RSI 50 and we can move an average 21 and start trending in an upwards direction. So for me, shorts is the priority until we do get those daily candle closes back above the RSI 50 and the weekly moving average 21. The big level to break in terms of the downside is 57.3. I think if we lose that level, we're probably heading down to 52k. So that's something to keep an eye on over the next couple of weeks, next couple of days rather, especially going into the end of the week. If we take a look at Ethereum, weekly time frame, not really too much to talk about. It's really a simple case for me as bullish above 2850 weekly candle close, bearish below 2500 weekly candle close. You can see we're just sort of ranging in between those 2 levels at the moment. In terms of the daily time frame, again, not really too much to talk about. Struggling to get back above 2700. If we do make it back up to 2700 again, I think that is a potential area for a short. That's where the daily moving average 21 is, and as I say, we've been trading below that for a long time. Ever since the 24th of July, we've not managed to get a daily candle close back above the daily moving average 21. So yeah, a good area for a short there. And then of course, if we do break above that daily level and the moving average 21, which will probably coincide with a break above the RSI 50, then we can start talking about getting bullish and start looking at longs. And then, as I said earlier, a weekly candle close above 2850, and I think that is definitely bullish indeed. But in terms of heading lower, weekly candle close below 2500, then we're probably going to hit 2180. And if we go to the higher time frame on the monthly, we do have this monthly range high at $2,030, which I think would be a really good potential long opportunity there. Of course, if we break back inside the monthly range high and have a monthly candle close below that monthly range high of $2,030, then that looks pretty bearish indeed, because this whole thing becomes one big deviation. But I don't think that's going to be the case. I think we do come down, retest 2030, and that'll be a nice entry for a long. And you can see on the monthly time frame as well, should coincide with a monthly retest of the RSI 50 as well. So that's something I'm looking out for. Of course, if we don't get it and we get that weekly candle close back above 2850, then I'll have to change my bias. But that's what I'm looking for over the coming days and weeks. If we now take a look at some of those altcoins I mentioned at the beginning that are languishing below big levels of weekly resistance, so potential shorts on the cards here if we do get some downside later in the week. You can see this level of $21.37 on AVAX, big level of previous support and resistance, very well respected all the way back from April 2021. And you can see we've actually rejected it over the last 2 weeks as well. So potential for more downside here. You could easily or quite comfortably enter a short here, targeting that weekly level of around $15, which is about 25% away. If we break it down to the daily time frame, again, we've got the daily moving average 21 just above us here at around $22. So what you could look for is a potential one more thrust up into resistance. So entry in around here, $21, $22, with your stop loss just above. So if we get the tool there, so if you aim for an entry of around $22, you can have your stop loss just above these highs here, around 4%. So this these highs here are about $22.70. So stop loss in around $23. It's about 4 or 5%, and then your TP would be down here, or your target would be down here at $15. So it's still a nice 6-to-1 risk reward ratio, and it'd probably have a TP1 in around these lows here, these local lows of around $19.50. So that'll be about 5-6% for TP1. Move your stop loss to break even, and then your TP2 could be down here at that weekly level of $15. So that's a potential trade on there. In terms of BNB, we take a look on the weekly time frame. So you can see big level of weekly resistance here at 546. So it was a big level of support. We've now flipped that. It's now resistance. We're coming up, pushing up against it. And you can see as well, if we were to reject off this level like we did last week, we'd end up closing below the weekly moving average 21 as well. If we break it down to the daily time frame, again, a pretty decent level of previous support and resistance, as you can see as well. So in terms of a trade, again, probably enter anywhere in and around here. I'd say TP or your target down here at around 450, 455. Stop loss, again, around about 3%. The only thing you've got to be careful of here on the day time frame is that we have broken back above the daily moving average 21 and starting to trend up as well. We're above the RSI 50 as well. So that's something to watch out for. In terms of the weekly time frame, though, as I say, up against resistance here. So maybe you want to wait for another weekly candle close and see what happens on the daily time frame. But that looks like a pretty good trade to me. In terms of risk reward, still looking at about 5-1 risk reward, so that looks pretty good. And then finally, we've got Doge. Again, big level of weekly resistance here at around 10 cents. 2 rejections from the past couple of weeks as well. If we go down to the daily, again, you might want to wait, similar for AVAX, for one more push up into resistance. We've got the daily moving average 21 up here at around 10.6 cents. So again, if we get our short position tool, stop loss, you could have that just above this local high here at around 11 cents. So stop loss would be about 3-4% away. Your target would be down here at around 8 cents. And again, similar to AVAX, you have a TP1 down at these local lows, which would be around 10-11%. So pretty good risk reward. The entire risk reward is about 6-1. So yeah, that looks like a pretty good trade to me. Of course, this could just break down. You might not get your entry, but much safer there. We may well revisit or retest this weekly level of resistance. So you want to get your entry as close to that level as possible. So there's some potential trades you could take on this week should the entries be provided. Keep an eye out for some volatility later this week, particularly on Friday, and hopefully we get a bit more volatility and some life breathed back into the markets in the next month or so. So drop in the comments below what you think is going to happen, and I'll catch you on the next video.